Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Talking Skritt. I'm your host, John, better known as Dare Ron. It's been a fantastic show for you. Less than a week until Path of Fire launch. Players get new shiny forms and build templates available, sort of, and much more. But first, let me introduce you to my fellow host. He is a moderator over at MMO Champion. He is anxiously waiting for the expansion like a child waiting for Disneyland Resort, Guardians of the Galaxy, Mission Breakout. Do you think they noticed that one? Definitely. Maybe. Anyways, say hello to Jim.
How much time do you spend working Chris Pratt and Ryan Reynolds movies into this every time?
Probably a good 15 minutes before the show.
Because fitting that you're branching out into more stuff and it's getting impressive. Your resources are expanding. Hi everybody.
They do need to do more movies. And you can see his stuff over on Twitch and YouTube at MMO Inks. He can't wait to go to the Crystal Desert to check out all the lore and find where the truth lies about the gods and Tyria. He is our Canadian Bacon of Guild Wars 2. Say hello to Inks.
Hey, how's it going? I am really excited for Friday, I have to say. Even more, I don't know, the closer it gets, the more excited I get.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Which, I mean, speaking of which, we can jump right into the first thing. This past week, they had a blog post that was kind of a countdown to launch, which they basically talked about some of the events from some of the partnered people with, and I think they also was in this blog post or something. They said a couple days before they're actually going to have a release trailer. Maybe it wasn't this one, but sometime during the week, they also had one that just kind of briefly mentioned, oh yeah, like 2 days or 3 days before the actual launch, they're going to have the official trailer, which can't wait to see that as well.
Yeah, on Tuesday. I'm really looking forward to that because I know people were like, "Where's the custom animated thing?"
Mm-hmm. But with the countdown to launch, oh, okay, I think it might actually, yeah, it is on this one. They talk about Monday, September 18th, the Alonagram screenshot contest, which I think we talked about previously. They're going to announce the winners. Tuesday, they're going to have the Path of Fire launch trailer will premiere. Thursday will be a rebroadcast of Guild Chat's episode with the developer diaries and all the other videos that kind of ran so far. So that'll be cool to watch if you haven't already. Also, they said 7 to 9 a.m. Pacific time on Friday, which is launch day. They are going to have a launch day live stream with members of the Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire development team and expect some fun surprises. The pre-show will begin at 7 a.m. Pacific time. That's UTC -7. Followed by the stream at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And you can watch on their Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. But that will be interesting. Are you guys excited for like a ArenaNet launch party type thing?
I'm just gonna have to ask my boss if I can take at least a half day on Friday.
Ooh.
Luckily, nothing really happens at the office on Fridays because nobody wants to actually, in the IT department, nobody actually wants to make changes to anything. So, which is understandable because, yeah, who wants to break something and then be there on a weekend? So,
which, see, this is why everybody should appreciate it, because ArenaNet's launching something on a Friday, which is probably going to, have issues. Everything that launches nowadays has some kind of issue. But speaking of which, approximately 9 a.m. Pacific time, which UTC -7, noon Eastern, Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire will launch. So, we get to go into the Crystal Desert, all that fun stuff. And then all Saturday, they're going to have a bunch of different partners. Just to name a few, September 23rd.
as long as we don't get what was the Diablo 3 one, Error 53.
Yeah. They have Path of Shenanigans. This is on Saturday specifically, but they have a couple others there. But Path of Shenanigans by Camaros. We were talking earlier in pre-show. World versus Weaver with Nerd Kitten. And then on Sunday they have the Foxes Take the Desert with Fashion Flux. So a lot of cool stuff coming up this weekend. I mean, I think we're all excited, but I figured, that's kind of all the partners that, they have something set up with. Would you guys like to take a second to plug anything you're going to be doing for the launch or next weekend? Or even Friday?
I'm going to be doing the podcast I'm going to be doing Talking Skritt on twitch.tv/Talking Skritt on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'll be having, I'll have a video out Monday detailing things better for myself on the YouTube channel. But yeah, I'll be streaming basically all day Friday from the time that they start going live with their show. I'll do my own pre-show hosting kind of thing like I normally do on those guild chat kind of shows. And then I'll be playing the expansion itself for, several hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. I won't be doing story so much. I'm going to be sort of avoiding that until until I can get a chance to play on my own and sort of privately record it for content creation and so forth. But that's sort of my sort of plans for launch.
Cool. Yeah, and I know Age couldn't be here today, but he said he was going to do a launch stream starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Streams throughout the weekend. Pretty much the next 2 weeks will be Guild Wars 2 streams for him. I know myself, I think Friday evening, I'm probably going to dust off my brainwave device and maybe try to go through the story and stuff like that and start kind of doing truly reacts to that stuff, which will be, I think, fun. And so there will be price spoilers, and I will put in the title, of course. But I did see in chat earlier about the whole, hopefully it's going to be a smooth launch. HOT was pretty good overall. I've heard this topic brought up a couple times, and I think no time better than right before the launch. I mean, do you, with Heart of Thorns, do you think it achieved what it set out to do? Like, basically, they're saying a lot of cool things for PoF. They said a lot of cool things for HOT. We can't really predict the future, but we can look at the past to help us decide what, might be our most likely outcome. So how did HOT stack up with its promises?
A brief post-mortem for Heart of Thorns, I would say it was the same thing that we were talking about when Heart of Thorns first launched, is we don't know what an expansion means to Guild Wars 2, because Guild Wars 2 doesn't exactly run similar to other MMOs, or at least it didn't at the time. I don't know what popular opinion is on that at the moment, but Heart of Thorns was slated as a big feature deal, and we got the Elite Specialization system, the Mastery system, adventures on maps. We got the revamp of Hearts for newer maps. We got the PvP ranked system, and I do think that a lot of the features went well. I think that the mastery system works as a way for them to basically give us more levels, but not invalidate our gear, which was really the big deal. And that's one of the things that a lot of RPG players complain, a lot of MMORPG players complain about, is like, I just killed some kind of crazy powerful entity and I made armor out of its scales or what have you, and now I'm getting better gear off of a boar from the next zone over.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to deal with that issue. Our legendaries are still legendary regardless of how many expansions we're in. So I think Heart of Thorns did well with the features. I think it stumbled a bit in early story, but I think Season 3 definitely brought that back. Now, I did say, I think this was the last weekend I was on, that the Heart of Thorns, that Season 3 was more of a transitional story where they were really more setting up things. And sure, a few things might have felt a little stilted, and also they were trying to say, oh, this is where this is what everyone is doing. in Dragon's Watch, which they acknowledged going into Path of Fire is something that is really difficult to maintain that much focus on that many characters all at once. So I think they brought it back with the story a little bit. They recovered, and I think they have a better idea of where they're going to go in the future. So was Heart of Thorns perfect? No, but I would call it a good product, and it did what it set out to do.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to try to pull things from chat. You know, chat's also saying Heart of Thorns was a big expansion. It put the mastery system in place. Yeah, like we're saying, you know, they even said it from the get-go. Heart of Thorns was very feature heavy, not a lot of content, which that's why I'm curious about PoF. They said this one's going to be the content one. So I'm excited to see their take on content rich, content heavy, like but yeah, I think I'll like, also they were saying in chat like PoF is more of a refinement rather than a lot of new systems, and that was one of my criticisms I'll have to say with Heart, like when they announced PoF, was while I like the mounts, I mean, you know, cool thing, it just felt like instead of building upon the mastery system, which was kind of like their idea with Hot with all the features, it felt like they're, you know, they had the foundation and now they built masteries like the house. Now they're just taking the foundation again and building that same house. Like, it doesn't feel like they're building upon the mastery system. They're just, you know, which that's why I feel a little bit weird. But granted, we haven't gone in yet, so it could be totally, you know, different. But we've gotten to try what, one mount on, you know, two. Like, I think if you got all the things from the demo, you got to try like tier 2 of that mount. So we really didn't get extensive testing with the mastery system for PoF. So it was one concern. But I did see someone in chat also say, like, while it did deliver on everything Heart of Thorns, it did take a while, like, for them to get that spot. And I do have to agree. I mean, a lot of people disliked the launch because it felt very gated, and then it kind of drew some of that stuff back. But go ahead.
You know, I have to go back on something QED said, and I think I chose my words poorly when I say I think Hot fell a little short. I think it was more that the delivery, like you guys, like everybody in chat has been saying, is that the delivery was kind of flubbed. Like when they said, new legendaries, hiatus, here are the new legendaries. So it's one of those things where I think it wasn't necessarily short on what it promised to deliver. It just delivered it in a suboptimal way, I think would be a better way to say what I wanted to say. And yeah, you know, there's people saying guild halls and stuff.
I'll be a little mean and just say it under delivered period. Did they come around and fix a lot of stuff? Yes, they did, which is great. But I know there's like quite a few people where it's unfortunate, right? It really is unfortunate for games. But once if that initial impression, which is always going to have problems and bugs and issues, once that initial impression, and let's say within 2 months, things have to be rock solid. And I don't think that it was really. If we want to look at the long haul, then I think that Heart of Thorns is actually in a pretty decent spot, although it's still under-delivered in a couple of key areas. Season 3 certainly helped a lot once that got rolling, but it took a long time to get rolling. Now, the positives for all of that are that Path of Fire shouldn't have any of those issues. Living Story should be rolling right away. No matter how much content there actually is, which we don't really have a lot of specifics on that content, I think overall it's going to deliver not only on the content for your $30, but also because the Living Story will roll out right away. So I think Path of Fire is going to have a lot going for it. As far as smooth transition goes, that Heart of Thorns just unfortunately didn't have.
Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people were talking about the maps earlier. I just remember that while I think they said they completed core tier map completion. I think they maybe said 4 or 5 times or something. They only did Heart of Thorns once, which I can understand. While I like meta maps, I don't like kind of 4 straight ones.
We were actually just talking before the show. My Zero to Hero co-host Chevron is hanging out here today with me and my wife, and my wife was talking about how she had to map complete Tangled Depths because she's working on her legendary armor. Tangled Depths is a mess. I love the map; it's really interesting, but when you need to go to somewhere specific, I hate it. And then, oh, you're picking up on the. I'll have to close the door. Sorry, guys. I'll have to. That's a Dremel tool. They're trying to set up stuff with our entertainment center. Dragon Stand, you can't really do anything in. Like, you can't just go into Dragon Stand and explore it and get map completion. You have to do it alongside the meta. So, no, Mac, I agree. Not everything has to be an easy map, but Tangled Depths, I don't think their map tech can handle how complex Tangled Depths is. Because I never know, I can hardly ever see party member icons because of the layering. So it's almost always like the faded blue dot that I have a problem with. So I don't know where my friends are. I don't know where my guildmates are because even the faded yellow dot is really hard to see. There are a lot of doors that open and shut based on events that are going on, and there's no real strong indication of how far those events have progressed in order for you to know where you can get to. All in all, I think the initial Heart of Thorns maps were really good, but it was a learning curve. As the living story went on, the maps got better and better, except for Chalice of Tears. Fuck that jumping puzzle. I'll be right back. I'm going to close the door.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as I started to do map completion for my legendary gift, I started to see like kind of like the pattern, I guess, for Tangled Depths. Like I started to understand a little bit, like was able to guide myself to certain places. But I think a lot of people in chat are even saying like it's one of those things, like the learning curve for the map itself is kind of very tough, but as soon as you kind of get it, then you're good, which the other ones tend to be more straightforward. But I mean, earlier shows you could definitely go back to where I'm like, screw Tangled Depths, like. But yeah, it's one of those ones. I mean, like I said, I just started spending a lot of time in it to get mastery points and all that stuff. So it took me all expansion, probably because I went through there and I'm like, I don't want to go in there. No, never again. Like, but eventually I went back in there, had to buckle down, and I don't know. I feel like it's not as bad as probably even I made it out to be earlier, but it is tougher. Yeah, Tangled Depths lives up to its name.
I think part of the biggest problem with Tangled Depths, which has sort of been picked up and hinted on here, is that the mini map doesn't really do you proper service to the map itself, right? It's not set up very well to show how to find things easily in Tangled Depths, and so a lot of people struggle because they look at their mini map and it's just not very helpful to them, So yeah. I definitely understand. I have just as many issues as anybody else with it, so yeah.
See, Mac brings up the chalk in the chalk tunnels, and when you guys talked about launch ore, that's kind of what I imagined ore to be at launch. Just high mob density, high respawn rates, and there's just shit everywhere, which is great for me when I'm playing my Burn Guardian because it gives me a target-rich environment is all I ever want. So that made me happy, but I can understand why people might dislike it when they're just trying to get somewhere specific.
Yeah, those lanes are very much, I feel like, or mob level, like launch level. But
J Swift, there's something to be said there, disabling the mini map. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind if there was actually like playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in the desert. If you're in the sandstorm, your mini map doesn't work. I actually would find that kind of cool to see if we're in the desert and we're in a sandstorm and it obscures our mini map.
Yeah, I mean, even throw it into like a lore thing, like maybe even say like as you first walk in, there's that little camp of like the Order of Whispers camp or something. And maybe they even say like, oh, we have scouts in there. Their maps are pretty much useless, like type thing. Like I wouldn't even bother trying to use your map, like blah blah type thing. Maybe that way to put it in people's minds, because that is one of the things where you start relying on that, popping up your map. And with Tangled Depths, it's like, what, I think there's 4 levels, but it's like within each of those levels are like 4 layers of vine paths and all that stuff. So yeah, if you're relying on the map or mini map, it's definitely will be a worse experience. Oh boy, a mastery that unlocks your map. I could see people raging about that. I had this already, you took it away from me, locking it behind a paywall, or something. I'm playing the internet in this one.
See, I like your ragey internet. Sometimes I kind of miss Aaron's like nasally, like where he does the fake glass push up from time to time. Yeah. I miss that.
It is taking away existing features in order to that would be my worry. But yeah, I think they even said after that, like, while they weren't a fan of like the hot maps as much, the living story maps were kind of a different pace, where you did have like bigger events in there, but it felt like a nice balance in between the two. So hopefully, not all the maps are giant meta maps, or they find a nice balance, kind of like the living story ones.
Well, one of the things that it seems like there might be metas for areas of the map, like the casino that was going on when we were doing the preview weekends. Like there was a series of events that went on, like there was a meta chain for the casino. So we might not see map spanning metas unless we have to fight the mouth of Krauth-the-Tauric, which I love Dragonstand as a large concurrent event. I just love the scale of it. The first time I saw the mouth of Mordermoth, it gave me the same feeling I got the first time I saw the Shadow Behemoth in Queensdale when I first started playing the game. Like I actually got the full feeling of size of the encounter. So I hope that they don't entirely go away from meta maps. I still would like to see at least one of them where like basically the entire point of a map is to fight this gigantic boss. But I do agree that not all of the maps should be that heavily focused on a single set of events.
And I agree with like what Chad's saying. Like I'm torn between Dragonstand, because like it is one, it should have just been like not labeled as like a map, just being like it's a giant event. Like that's all it should have been labeled as, because like they're saying, you can't really explore unless you're doing this meta. Like I don't know, I'd kind of like to see it like almost like a World v World. Well, in World v World, when you go in, it kind of gives you like all the waypoints, but don't have any points of interest, or just give them to the people when they walk in. Something like that, because I can understand with points of interest that'd be handy to be like, we're here at this spot, but to help with a meta map. But if they do that again, I hope it doesn't have a lot of map completion to it. But I do like the idea of that, giant map as a giant event. Maybe more like world bosses before the 3-headed worm. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to still see something challenging. I mean, before that, all we had really was Tequatl, when they revamped it, before they had the triple worm. But yeah, overall, I saw a couple of people in chat like, I think they delivered on their promises. Whether like what they stated, I think they did give it to us. Whether we liked it or not is a different thing. I mean, and granted, I will agree, it did take a while, because I mean, we finally got raid armor at the beginning of this year. We're still waiting on the legendaries, at least yeah, like kind of like Jim was saying, it was kind of like, yeah, they're suspended indefinitely, but they're back. But at least they're doing good by the Heart of Thorns players, where when the future stuff comes out, it's still going to only require Heart of Thorns, because that would have just been bad if they would have locked it behind the new expansion.
So, does this mean that PoF only players can't get Gen 2 legendaries?
Probably, yeah. It's one of those weird. Once again, if you only
Yeah,
have
this is-
PoF, it's like, yeah, it's awkward.
I'm still not a huge fan. I like how they're compartmentalizing the purchases so you don't have to grab everything all at once, but like it's going to lead to some weird interactions with future expansions not having that to go on.
Yeah, like Chad
I don't
said,
know.
they can't. It's hot content. But I don't know. Any final thoughts on, hot and it being it being a telling tale for PoF?
I think at the end of the day, it worked out mostly, but that rough start definitely hurt the player base, and certainly the initial player base that were used to sort of the Living Story 3 maps, which for the record, I think they were polar opposites, where Living Story 3 is very far away from Heart of Thorns type maps. And I'm hoping in Path of Fire that they intermix those. Now, Crystal Oasis definitely looks like a Living Story 3 map, but I'm hoping the other maps, have a couple of metas here, a couple of world bosses, throw in the bounties, and I think that really sort of mixes things up in a much better way. And that's what I'm hoping to see, and to me, that would be a content-rich expansion, which is what we're supposed to be getting. But we'll see. We'll find out on Friday, a lot more of these details.
Cannot wait. But yeah, if you when PoF rolls out, and if you have questions or concerns that you want to address to the devs, you could probably use the forums. And if you probably hop on the forums right now, you're probably gonna be like, "Just what happened to my forums?" Well, they got a new look. So this past week, they put out a blog post. The new forums, they now have the following features. They have the single sign-on technology, so you log in using the latest in secure systems. Mobile support, so you can use it on a phone, tablet, anything else. Avatars, select from a bank of game-related images to customize your forum look. Reactions, so easily share your feedback on a post or a thread through the reaction system, so thumbs up, thumbs down, stuff like that. Ranks, identify forum members who have written posts and threads of particular value to the community. Badges, increase your forum rep by getting badges based on your positive contribution, longevity, and more. And a search engine. Oh boy. Look up a topic of interest, expand, continue, or update an existing discussion. So they did say a couple things. The old forums will be locked into read-only mode and will be accessible till the end of October. But before we continue further into it, like, what are your guys' thoughts on the new forum features, like search?
Search engines, yay! For anybody who missed Age's rant before he hopped off earlier, apparently the search engine has been broken for the forums for several years, and people said go to Google to search the Guild Wars 2 forums.
Yeah, I found it funny. I'm like, initially when I read that, I was like, well, hopefully it works. But
and then I made the joke that the forum search tool is still in beta, guys. The looking for post system.
My only issue with it was that the day that it launched, every time you hit a like, it would put the person's icon below, and it just like at one point, Crystal Reed makes a post and it's like 84 likes and half the page is just icons, which is ridiculous.
Wow.
But
yeah,
that was removed within like 24 hours or less. So luckily they got like right on that. And yeah, I don't know. I think they're good. I like them. They look nice.
I mean, hopefully the avatar thing will expand to like maybe you could put your like character picture up there or something, because right now it's like basically the profession icons, like Destiny's Edge members, like the default Guild Wars 2 logo thing, and a couple other, you know. I just looked at them like, this really doesn't, like, none of that really is what I would consider my account. But eventually I'd like to see more avatars, but
The layout of these posts in the system is terrible.
how so?
Like from a UI design standpoint, the thumbs up, thumbs down, you shouldn't need the words thumbs up and thumbs down next to those buttons. Everybody on the internet should know what they are, and then even if you don't, if you mouse over them, there should be a little tooltip that pops up that says thumbs up or thumbs down, which, you know, when you have icons that are doing this, you should kind of get the idea. Quote and report, I'm okay with those having the text there. And then the helpful one, I've never actually seen a light bulb listed as something, so I guess that's almost like another +1, but like I'd figure that the helpful would be kind of handled by thumbs upping the post.
Yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of likes dislikes systems in discussion based forums, because one of the things I was talking about in pre-show is it basically turns it into a what can I do to get the most likes,
Mm-hmm.
and it turns away from actual discussion to like farming.
Or how can I troll this person and just dislike as much as possible, or whatever the case is.
Or a group
It
of
becomes a
people have
popularity
something.
contest. Like on Reddit, you're supposed to upvote and downvote based on relevance to topic, but it's never used that way. It's used as a popularity system.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what this will be too. It's not about, it's supposed like and dislike or upvote, downvote. It's supposed to be relevance of topic. Are you on topic? Upvote. Are you off topic? Downvote, so that it pushes things that are not on topic away from the thread. But not how it works at all. So
Yeah.
I don't really think it's necessary, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like from my stance, it's like if you start a Reddit or 4chan or whatever, if you want that popularity system and that's how you want to run it, fine. For like a business thing where it's about discussion, I really don't think, upvoting and downvoting into oblivion type thing is great for views, because like Inks is saying, and I think probably what most of the internet is used to, it's very much a popularity contest. Like, what if I, say, oh, yeah, I don't really agree with this. Well, my guild does. I'm going to get my guildies to downvote your thing so no one can see it type thing. It's like, well, just because you guys had...
downvote rings, yeah. That's another thing that exists in the internet whenever upvote and downvote systems exist. So
yeah, ultimately that's my one worry, but...
I just... And the other thing from a UI design is, NG brought it up, is that everything is too big. Like the text size, the UI size, the design of the UI is just too big. Like username is gigantic. The member title and then the stars and everything. It's just like the post itself almost feels lost in the elements of what encapsulate it, especially if it's only like a 1 or 2 line post. So I don't, it's just really awkward. Like reduce useless clicking. I don't know if the guy, this in the general Guild Wars 2 discussion, I don't know if the guy just all capsed his title. No, if you click on the title, the actual forum thread, they actually all caps the title, but the text of the title is the same size as the text for usernames.
Oh, wow.
So it's just weirdly designed. I'm not going to say it's bad, because I've seen bad websites designed. I had a class on them. Dear God, the horrors. But it's, and Clouds for Days, I'm not even talking about vision issues, but yes, I could definitely understand the vision issues, because a lot of it just kind of feels like it runs together, especially with the light gray text with some of the stuff. But this is just not a great design. It's just not a very good UI at all.
Yeah. And they did say about retaining content. So while they have ported over some of their important sticky threads, they won't migrate normal content from the old forums database into the new one. If you have created a thread, for instance, a guide, a guild recruitment notice, a continuing fan art or fan fiction section, please feel free to recreate that content on the new forums in the proper sub-community / sub-forum. So, but I think the real question is, do you think this is going to are people going to use this over possibly Reddit or,
No.
No? Do you think this might drive other people that maybe liked the old forums to
Yes.
Reddit or?
Yeah, no, this is compared to the old forum setup, I very much think that this isn't going to help. I mean, it might be better on the back end because CSS can be fixed. The look and feel of a site can be changed easily in comparison to dealing with back-end engine stuff. This is definitely an underlying engine change, especially if they're just going to close off and remove the old forums. So if they actually listen to people and make the UI better, so you say that, NG. I hate Reddit's system. That's me though. So.
And like Chad's saying, yeah, you're gonna have more people playing the forums than the actual game, which that's definitely one concern. But any final thoughts on the forums? Well, this past week on the forums themselves, Crystal Reed jumped on to talk about the concern about raid difficulty and challenge modes. And if you don't know, she's one of the ones that worked on the, one of the developers on the raids. So she says, we won't be adding a different difficulty tier at this time. Raids need to continue to remain the most challenging content in the game, and they aren't designed to be accessible by everyone from a skill perspective. Could they be more accessible from a finding 9 other players to play with side? Sure. Insert 5 more people joke. That isn't always an easy option to solve, and any solution would detract away from the team making more raid content. We'd love to get more content out to you guys faster, really. She also goes on by saying, I see a lot of comments about Wing 4 difficulty, so I'll add some notes on that as well. Balance came in later than expected since they had far more bosses and content to test than usual. Were they totally happy with how balance turned out? Yes and no. For example, the Mersad Overseer base difficulty is too easy, but they were happy with the challenge mode difficulty. For the next release, they'd like to get the difficulty tuned more back in line with Spirit Veil. However, some of the original difficulty in Magic is hard to recapture, and she says you never forget your first raid boss kill. So, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think some people are going to be very unhappy when they hear that because they want a story mode for these raids that have story. And raids are going to continue to have story, and sometimes that story is going to touch on old loose threads, which there are many in the Guild Wars universe. And anytime that happens, people are going to be angry that they have to raid and that the difficulty is actually going to be uptuned, which I'm a little surprised about, because I figured it would stay about Wing 4 level, maybe even get a little bit easier rather than create different tiers. But, I mean, she's saying it pretty clear here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am mostly okay with the fact that they're willing to uptune something. And the fact that there's story in the raids, I already made my peace with that. We've had this discussion before that the raids, when we talked about Saul in Wing 4, Saul D'Alessio is a side story to Guild Wars 2. The fate of Saul is tangential to Guild Wars 2. It's a huge plot point for people who are fans of Guild Wars 1. And I understand people being like, well, crap, I need to see what the hell happens, or at least watch like a video and find out what happens. But they're still keeping to their promise that the raid story is tangential to main plot.
And yeah, I think even during then, I'd argue Saul's story was a side story in Guild Wars 1. It was just background noise. Like, you never met him. The only thing they really talked about was he found the white mantle, he saved us, blah, blah, blah. That's it. He disappeared. We don't, know what happened. Like, until you do the side stories for the bonus mission packs, you get to see, stuff that happens. But yeah, just like what Chad is saying right now. Though I still am a little aggravated by, when they first said that, oh, everything was going to be side story, and they come out swinging with, the Mersat, and I'm like, how is that side story? And it wasn't.
Well, it was, because here's the main, like, say this is the commander's plot line, and then this is where the raid thing came in, and it branched into main plot, but you didn't need to know what was going on in Wings 1 through 3 to understand what was going on in the main story. Nothing in the story of Wings 1 through 3 needed to be known. So
I don't know. The return of the Mersat is kind of...
and then you find out about it in the main plot. Secondhand knowledge from the guy that the mercenary team that got through the White Mantle Fortress mercenary team, that they rescued him.
He didn't actually return either, so there's that.
Oh, I thought he...
Well, he did.
Yeah, he's in Bloodsman Fen.
I meant Lazarus.
Oh, Lazarus.
But technically he did too, by the end of it. But yeah, you're right.
Right, but that had nothing to do with the raid at the end of the day, right?
Well, because they had to throw in a plot twist that was, jeez.
It wasn't Shyamalan bad, okay?
I'd take a Shyamalan plot twist.
And then Silicon said that the Eye of Janthier wasn't side story. The Eye of Janthier showed up. Sure, it showed up because of the mercenary team, which I'm just going to call all of the raid teams at this point, that went into the Mersat Fortress to investigate stuff. But still, we didn't need to know where the Eye of Janthier was prior to the ending of Season 3. It just showed up. Where it was prior to that had no bearing on the main plot. So...
okay.
It's still side story. I mean, it's important. It's pretty a fairly big deal, but it's still not necessary to know what happens in the raids to be able to follow the commander's story. So that's my only thought on that.
Now, my concern is, they're saying they want to make it more, the difficulty tuned more like Spirit Vale, which I'm fine with it being the difficulty. Please don't make it like the fights. Once again, this is why I'm not a huge fan of raids. It just feels like every other MMO to me. And I know...
you weren't... you weren't a huge fan of the Spirit Vale fights, were you?
Well, I just felt like... I'm just not a fan of them bringing back the Holy Trinity in any aspect. And
I will say that I agree with you. Fight design in Spirit Vale was a little lackluster for the first two encounters. Spirit Guardian and Gorsaval didn't feel super different to me compared to other games that I've rated in. Sabbatha, I never actually got to do Sabbatha, but Sabbatha to me is super interesting because I think her auto attack aggroes onto the farthest person away from her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they started doing the different stuff. And then Slothosaur has rotating aggro, and then there's all kinds of other different stuff. So yeah, I totally agree that there was some uninspired design in Wing 1, but I kind of give them a little slack for it because it's the initial stab at raiding for Guild Wars 2, but I definitely think they've gotten a lot better. I don't think they're going to redesign fights to be more like Wing 1, to be the slightly more boring, you know, with the dedicated tank who is just the person with the highest toughness and so on. So that's and you know,
You do have someone that has to be a tank, you have someone that has to be a healer, and you have DPS. That's the Holy Trinity.
The one thing that I think is going to open it up is one of the bigger problems I've seen with raiding is like we need a PS warrior, we need a dedicated healer, so druid, or I think has Ventari Rev been seen in healer position at all? I don't know, but I know Elementalist has been in as healer as well. So I think with the new elite specs, especially with Scourge, I'm definitely seeing Scourge coming in as like a +1 healer, like a support, so that you'd be able to have somebody who maybe does a little less output because you have the preventative damage from a Scourge with the constant barrier pulsing. So I definitely think there's going to be a lot more leeway in raid composition with the new elite specs. I really do think that it's going to open stuff up better.
And like Bjorn is saying, that's why I said there is definitely a Holy Trinity, and you're saying the active combat is what avoids that? No, kind of like what Mithrin's saying. And this is why I don't like it. The AI is programmed for fights. I'm looking at your stats. I'm going like particular ones. Sometimes it's toughness, or position. Sometimes it's the furthest person. What are you going to do if once you learn that? Okay, we're going to make our tank the furthest position because it's the one that's going to be eating the thing. They're still the tank even though they're not, you know, maybe having the toughness or something. There's still the Holy Trinity there. It's just not, you know, maybe the guy that's holding the shield all the time in, you know, for other games. But there's still definitely the Holy Trinity there. Like I was saying during pre-show, I was always hopeful with, like when they were saying, wait till you see our version of raids. And then right before HOT, they just had they did the GDC with the I think it was Story Bricks and Intrinsic. I forget what the A stood for company, but some of their stuff was going into Heart of Thorns AI, and I think you got to see some of that. But a lot of the idea behind it was you gave that particular enemy a hierarchy of desires, like what they wanted to achieve, and it would play against that. So if it's maybe like a ranged character, it wants to stay away from the other enemies, so it will like pretty much try to move away from enemies. It had that better AI than just, I want to look at everybody's stat sheet. Okay, this guy's the tank. I will look at this guy even though he's not doing any damage to me. He's threatening, not the 8 other people that are smacking me in the back. Like, I don't know. I just never. I was hopeful for more from ArenaNet myself, but.
And something NG brought up is Slothosaur and Matthias definitely feel a lot more organic. Like yeah, but Bayorn, I just said like Sabbatha throws her auto attack at the person who's farthest away, right? So there's a tank. Like Deo's, like I think Deo brought that up, is like if you are the farthest person away, you're the tank. So just make sure the person who can take the damage is the farthest person away. It's you do a thing, and that specific thing makes you the tank. Now, in Slothosaur, where Slothosaur just randomly goes, "I'm going to fight you," but you know somebody actually gets a notification that says, "Hey, I get to know that Slothosaur is targeting me." So there's stuff like that. I can't really speak for anything past Keep Construct because that's about where I stopped rating. But the other encounters, which I consider bosses, like Escort in Wing 3, or the first encounter in Wing 3, I consider the major encounters bosses in my mind. The Spirit Tunnel leading up to Gorseval, I consider that a boss because you can lose that just as easily as you can lose a boss fight. Someone gets knocked down in the wrong place, a spirit orb.
It's an event, not a boss, but
literally any event I see in a dungeon, I see as something that can potentially wipe a group.
Let me put it this way: I would rather have 4 bosses than these events that they put in the middle. If you want to put events in, that's fine, but I don't want it to count towards the boss cap. And unfortunately, up until Wing 4, where they removed events, that's exactly what it was, you know? Like, those events took up places where they could have developed another boss.
See,
For
I don't
me,
like.
I'd rather have more bosses than, you know.
I'm not a huge fan of boss tunnels, so I guess that's more my opinion on it. So,
because like other raids, let's take old school WoW. It was like they didn't have events, but they just had tons of mobs where you had to sheep them or CC them. I hated that. That was a waste of time. I just want to fight the boss. I don't care about, and that's one of the reasons why I like fractals more than dungeons. And I know that's not for everybody. There's a whole aspect to dungeons where people like the tools and techniques for skipping it and CC and all that other stuff. But that's just my opinion. You know, it's not for everybody, obviously.
But I don't know. Like I said, I categorize tank as the person that's predominantly throughout the fight getting the aggro. That's kind of why I like the Slothosaur thing, because like Jim was saying, it randomizes it. You still have the tank aspect, but it requires everybody to know that, like, what to do, not just I stacked on this type of armor or am being this far distance from it to make it trigger specifically me. You don't get to control that. And I saw people earlier saying, like, this combat seems more hectic. Have you ever been in a fight? Like, not fights aren't organized. It's not like.
and I have to admit, Guild Wars 2 combat, in comparison to a lot of other MMORPGs, has always been more hectic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this just, I mean, sure, you can game the AI by, like, line of sighting around a corner, but that's, I mean, generally speaking, even if, you know, going by a real fight kind of thing, if someone wants to kill you, they're not going to be able to shoot you through a wall.
Yeah.
I mean,
the way I would categorize aggro is whoever that mob is targeting. Because sure, they're gonna have an AoE thing. That doesn't mean they're aggroing like, it's basically who they're gonna be like, this is the person I want dead. So they're locking onto that person.
A good example is one of the things you bring up about the AI is the Mordrum Guard. Just in the general Heart of Thorns maps, like the snipers will dodge roll out of your AoEs. They'll dodge roll away from your attacks. They will stop shooting at someone far away to do their kick, knockback, and like backwards dodge roll into stealth just to keep you away from them. That's a hierarchy of needs kind of thing. Like, that means that the Mordrum snipers have a conditional in their AI that says, if an enemy target is within X amount of range of you, boot them the hell away and get away from them. So then that's honestly one of the things where I kind of dislike the stealth sight mastery, because it kind of makes the Mordrum snipers really easy to deal with because they can never drop your targeting. And honestly, I think that was one of the more interesting things about them.
And like Chad is saying, yes, I did bring in realism to it, but, you know, playing something tactical. Okay, then why don't every raid boss target the healer? Like, hey, this guy's making everybody live. Wouldn't that be a great tactic to eliminate them? No, I'm going to attack the guy that's just, you know, I'm going by the stereotype of tank is usually the plate guy, but just for the sake of it. But, you know, I'm going to go after the guy that has the big shield and doesn't do anything to me. It's like, no, you're going to attack the guy that's basically the linchpin. Unless all these mobs are just incredibly stupid, but also rulers or leaders of these factions, which is
one of the
a
things.
lot of times in Guild Wars 2, it's about proximity more than anything else. There are some boss fights that has to do with toughness, but a lot of it is proximity or even random, like Slothosaur, which is actually kind of nice for switching up the tank mechanic.
But it's one of the things that made it easier. Like going into further wings, is they definitely got, like I said, the wing 1 fights are kind of uninspired, but they've gotten better as the wings released. Like, I think the subsequent wings that came out have definitely gotten a lot better on their fight design. Honestly, off the top of my head, the first thing I can think of that would make Veil Guardian a more interesting fight is it was a game of hot potato, where if you want to set a tank, there's a relic that somebody picks up, and it's like the Veil Guardian's just, it's an ancient security system, basically. So it just runs around and smacks the person that has the thing. You have special action key to throw the thing to someone else. That would have been cool. But I can understand why they wouldn't want to do anything too crazy for the very first fight. Something that, you know, people would say, this is your introduction to raiding. So I can kind of understand why Wing 1, they kind of wanted to make a, I don't know, more like other MMORPGs kind of wing with Wing 1 as kind of a, like a way to ease people into it. And then that's why Sabbatha is the one that kind of breaks the mold with the Wing 1 fights. But I don't know. Like this definitely is getting into territory we might want to save for after show or
it's
random rambles.
Yeah, because it's not really even on the topic as a whole. Like I said, that ultimately was my concern of them going back to Spirit Veil difficulty. Is hopefully they're not going to go back to the mechanic or hierarchy that at least I see as, you know, Holy Trinity. But any other thoughts on the ArenaNet raid difficulty? Well, you know, if for whatever reason, you know, it is a Holy Trinity or not, you know, you maybe got to change up your build on the fly. Well, you know, we all want to build templates. ArenaNet's kind of not right there to do it yet. But if you're familiar with ArcDPS, and I'm sure if you're raiding, you probably are, ArcDPS now has the capacity for build templates. So they worked with ArenaNet and has all clear to do this. And there was even a dev response, you know, saying that, you know, they complied and all that stuff, and so it's okay to use. It's disabled for PvP. World restrictions not explicitly stated in the Reddit post. No support for legendary armor stat swap yet. Ranger pets and Revenant legends are hopefully going to be developed. And what's most interesting in the post, you can actually read, they say kind of, you know, this is basically a stopgap until a first party solution. So hopefully that means, you know, it's sooner rather than later. But what are your guys' thoughts on the build template and basically being done through ArcDPS?
I need to actually install it and see what all it can do. But the stopgap until first party solution, if that's something that the add-on author got from Chris Cleary, because I know this is a re-release after he kind of jumped the gun without official approval. Yeah, soon TM DDoS. Yeah, that just means that ArenaNet is actually working for it and wants to put this out. So it is what it is, and you know, I might mess with it, but I don't think I'm going to use it permanently. If I ever do use it, I'll probably just keep it. I'll play with it just to see what it's like, and then I'll just uninstall it because I'm not a huge fan of using anything that's outside of a game.
Yeah, I'm with Jim. I don't really use third-party anything. I think it's great for those who do, like Reshade and all that kind of stuff that people like. I think those are all amazing tools. I'm glad that those tools exist. I'm glad that Chris was able to work with the ArcDPS guy on this to really get it instituted. The other thing is I use legendary armor and trinket and weapons for the most part. So, and that's not humble brag. It's not meant as one, but so like half of the stuff won't work for me until like that happens anyway. So I've had people ask, like, are you going to do a video on it? You're going to talk about it? Like, yeah, I'll talk about it on shows like this, but yeah, subtle links. But I'm not going to have any firsthand usage with it just because it doesn't work with legendaries yet, and I don't really use third-party add-ons. Like, even for, you know, outside of Guild Wars 2, even for games like Fallout, which is like mod heavy, like you're crazy not to use mods, I just don't bother with them for whatever reason. I'm weird like that, I guess. I don't know, but
give me that pin back.
Yeah, I'm happy it exists, and it's good. It's good news for people.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting, like when Chris Cleary chimed in on the Reddit post. You know how he said he worked kind of alongside helping, And some of the interesting things he also said was like, if future developers are interested in working with me to create add-ons, please reach out to him and they can chat. So, you know, kind of like what you're kind of hitting upon, like the whole WoW thing and add-ons. Would you guys like to see like maybe official mod support? If, and I'm not saying this means it's happening, but maybe down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're gonna keep up with this, then I think so. For the record, I did use add-ons in WoW. I mean, you had to kind of if you wanted to raid,
Because
really have
there
a choice,
you are.
unfortunately. But
There
even
you
then,
are.
I mean, I used minimal. I changed the UI a little bit, which, by the way, I mean, we can't do that in Guild Wars 2, but people want to change the UI. They want the Guild Wars 1 way of doing things, right? So, but anyway, yeah, I think it would be great if that eventually did come. A lot of MMOs have things like WoW where there's like third-party support. ESO is another big one that has like a lot of different stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. It would be cool, I think.
Yeah, like chat's saying, it's been certified as compliant. Like, it's, you know, as they worded it, this is officially unsupported, and ArenaNet will not be able to offer any support for this add-on or issues that occurred due to the use of this add-on. So, it's still, you know, do at your own risk, but you're not going to get banned for using this in this state, because he did ask that if any big functionality changes were to be implemented, to run it by him, you know, to make sure it still is greenlit. But yeah, overall, I think it's awesome. You know, hopefully this gives them ideas maybe for maybe the build template that they're planning, or if they are.
I have to admit, I don't know if I want Guild Wars 2 to get to a point where it allows like an official channel for modding. I feel like we've kind of got into an officially unofficial state with the DPS meters and now build templates. But honestly, at some point, I would kind of just wish them to say, we've basically hired this team of people from the forums because they've showed that they can do this on their own. So we're going to hire a freelance team to implement this feature into the game.
That would be cool, yeah. Yeah, because I was going to say, as you were talking about it originally, I was worried that like that's been addressed a lot in WoW, where they kind of make their raids with those mods in mind now, that because just everybody uses them. So that could be one potentially negative thing.
Except for that time that they banned a mod that drew circles on the ground.
Yeah, well, we have that in-game for a map on maps.
If your raid encounters can be thwarted by people drawing circles on the ground,
maybe
not,
some kind of weird incantation and like one-shots the boss or something. You never know.
Well, honestly, the mod I'm talking about actually used trigonometry and like ray tracing in game to calculate where boss AoEs would hit. And it would draw circles that were 2D circles, but overlaid on top of your game looked like 3D images. And that's amazing to me as a programmer. I loved the entire concept of that. But if your encounter can be defeated by that, like, I could see circles like that. Like, we get those circles in Guild Wars 2. We get the orange circles from the Chalk Garen. And I still get hit by falling rocks. I still get hit by purple donuts because I get tail smacked into them.
And Mac, I mean negative in the sense of, if it's not like, that's why I like Jim's idea of, hey, these people are doing a good job, we're bringing them on, you know, temporarily to develop it as a first party thing. Like, if it's in game natively, then yeah, use the tools that they have at their disposal. But if it's being like WoW is, requires you then to go out, if you want to raid with us, download this pack of mods, like, and you know, spend like a day probably setting them up.
Like, I think somebody said, no, Silicon Smiley said we need an ANET creation club. Honestly, I feel like ArenaNet could do a better job of it than Bethesda could. But mostly that's because Guild Wars 2 doesn't have open modding in the first place. Like, Pandora's box isn't open on modifications to the game, so they could actually do something like that. Then again, I don't think ArenaNet would end up charging for these mods, because they would just, like, that's what they get. They get their money out of the gem store. That's their constant source of revenue. So they obviously don't have the people to put like build templates in a reasonable amount of time, since everybody's wanted it since the release of the Goram game. So, hey, there's a whole bunch of people on the forums that have proved with, you know, unofficial add-ons that they have the programming acumen to actually do it. So why don't we vet them, have a project manager work with them, have one of our senior devs review the code, test it internally, ship it. Like, having freelance teams like that. One of my biggest jobs was working, basically doing the same thing with the company. Is we would get a project, I would go to the job site, I would work for weeks, months, whatever. I would work on the project they wanted done, I'd leave. And then they would have ownership over whatever I had programmed for them, and it would be in the wild in their hands. So that would basically be what ArenaNet would be doing. I don't know how their internal structure works, and if they'd be able to handle that, or even have the will to set that up, because I know culture for a business is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And having people in as freelance like that on a regular basis can feel demoralizing to people who are like full-on employees, because it's like, you couldn't do this, so now we're bringing in the freelancers to do it for you. Now, that might not be like clearly that's not what a lot of the senior devs, like the senior management at ArenaNet, think, because or at least going off of what I've seen publicly from ArenaNet, that, you know, their developers definitely seem to enjoy their jobs, so they actually like what they're doing, which means they probably put out better stuff than developers who don't enjoy their jobs. But it's a weird situation. But
and I see chat saying you could just let the community develop what they want and then take whatever good comes up into your game. I've seen that thrown around a lot for WoW, like, but honestly, I don't think WoW ever really did that all that much. They just kind of let those add-ons exist. Like, they never hugely capitalized on like being like, you know what, a lot of people use this. Let's put these features for the, you know, I think at the time I played Deadly Boss mods. I don't know if it's still the top one, but you know, that, you know, why don't we implement that into our system? They never really, they do smaller stuff, but nothing like that. Like, at least that I remember. But yeah, I haven't played WoW since I left on Pandaria. So, but yeah, so yeah, I'm a little behind on my WoW, what they've updated into it after they put in Pokemon. Any final thoughts on the build templates and ArcDPS and mods in general?
I'll wait until there's an official in-game one.
Yeah, that's probably my stance on it as well. But, you know, we kind of have those little, like, the stuff that they did for the commander tag update, where you could put, like, little, like, symbols and, you know, kind of use the map or the game area with the little symbols and runes. Speaking of runes, this past week...
Oh, my God.
They on the wiki, they actually added the elite specialization runes that we're going to be seeing in PoF. So do note that these are subject to change before launch, but as we kind of talk about it, we'll refer to it as like major stat, minor stat, and then the 6 bonus. So the major stat pretty much will always net you 175 of whatever the major stat we're talking about. The minor stat will kind of net you 100 in whatever minor stat we're talking about. But, you know, let's go through the list. First up, we have the Mirage. So the major stat is condition damage, the minor stat will be toughness, and the 6th bonus will be heal when you successfully evaded an attack on a 20-second cooldown. So how do you guys feel about the Mirage?
Depending on the power of the heal. Because if that's just like a 300 or 400 heal,
Yeah.
Like I'm not really sure because I mean Mirage, that's kind of the big deal of evading for them. A 20-second cooldown on that, unless it's a sizable heal, I really don't think it's worth the cooldown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious. Like you said, because that's the big thing with the Mirage is you'll be able to still when you dodge, now it's just kind of a shift or something, but you can still attack while you're doing it. So you'll be evading from that, but also Mesmer tends to have a lot of evasion skills on itself. So you know that could be pretty big, unless, like Jim's saying, the heal is not so much. You can run healing power, right? Right?
Healing power.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, chat kind of just perfectly at the same time, agreed about the healing power. Yeah, do you think this will be more beneficial in PvE, PvP, or War v World, or like?
If it gets added to the PvP menu, I can see this being used in PvP because in PvP, a game of inches happens more often than not. So that heal could be useful. In WVW, I don't know. I don't play enough WVW to know. I know that from talking with Age that you don't want to run Glassy in WVW unless you really know what you're doing. So I could see this being used in WVW with the toughness on it. And honestly, you're probably going to be able to proc the heal on a nigh constant basis in Zerg v Zerg fights because you can dodge and evade probably 4 or 5 different attacks at once.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Inks, I know you WVW a lot. Is that, and you WVW a lot too, don't you, Deo?
I've started to a little bit, but yeah, I kind of agree. Like, since if you're running in a Zerg, you're probably gonna be using that cooldown every time. Every time it's off cooldown. But
yeah, I don't know. Like, we're gonna talk about them. I didn't really look at too many. I looked at Soul Beast. It looked okay. It sort of further reinforces what I thought about Soul Beast, and that it's gonna be, there's probably gonna be some kind of hybrid spec. Whether that'll be like the best spec, I don't know, but it definitely seems like ArenaNet wants you to play a hybrid for Soul Beast. The runes, the traits and everything that go with the class. We'll get to that, I guess, in a second, but I don't know. We'll see.
yeah. Yeah, next up we have the Weaver, which the major stat will be Celestial, so that's plus 36 to all the stats in total. The minor stat is condition duration, so 15% total. And the 6th bonus, gain a barrier when you execute a leap finisher, which, like, I've seen a lot of people wanting this for other things besides the Weaver, but,
Why do all of the Elementalist runes suck?
Why do they all use plus auto stats? Because I think someone actually noticed, like, besides the 6th bonus, this is the exact same thing as the last elite spec.
The Tempest is basically the same thing with, I think, boon duration. The celestial stats on runes are dumb. I'm tired of them. It's not enough stat to actually mean anything in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So and then the leap finisher, the thing is, does it only proc when you complete a combo? Or does it proc when you use a skill that is a leap finisher? So, I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going on there.
I'm going to guess combo, but yeah, it's not very clear in the...
The other thing is, I thought they were going to replace all instances of boon duration and condi duration with concentration and expertise. So...
I thought that was just with armor. And weapons.
Like, I thought they were going to do it for runes, too. Like, I thought they were going to do it across the board to everything. Because, honestly, I think that's something they should do, because they're sending mixed signals here with that. Like, they give us a stat that gives us, boon and condi duration, but they still have flat bonuses to it in other locations. So, like, I understand when it's from a specific, like, for a specific source. But if it's just a generic plus to boon duration or condi duration, I think it should just be concentration or expertise. something like sigils of smoldering for your weapons for just burn duration, for example, I'm okay with flat bonuses to specific things. But if it's generalized, just use the stat. It's there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the barrier, I mean, it's got no cooldown on it listed at the moment. It could be great, but you know, it's not like barrier. It's not like proccing a barrier is you proc a barrier and you get a barrier of a set amount. Barrier is like a healing skill. There are different values involved in everything. So I don't know how big of a barrier this is going to be.
Yeah.
I know that the decay time is like a 1 second grace period before it starts decaying. So what warriors with powerful the powerful combo thing where their finishers proc twice, like that'll be interesting.
Yeah,
which would be really funny
if that affects
it'll be.
I mean,
well, it'll be really funny to see a sword torch berserker. Without talk to you later, Mac. It'll be funny to see a sword torch berserker with this. It's like activate what fires of war and then sword 2 in. You know, not only do you jump in with a double fire leap finisher, so you get a double duration fire aura, and then you also have the barrier on top of that. So
yeah, I've seen some people bring up, you know, Thief Dagger 2. Like, yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting that procs off a leap finisher. I can see this being, well, apart from, well, would Celestial stats be good for PvP? Because if this is in PvP, like, that like little bit of extra like overshield could be helpful, but yeah, Celestial stats.
They took Celestial Amulet out for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if runes like Celestial runes, like Celestial stat bonus runes, you're not equipping those in PvP for the stats on them. Like I said, the plus 36 to all stats, it's not enough in any one stat to actually make a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, with the way the math works out, the power, the toughness and the vitality kind of multiply each other. So you get a little bit more value out of that than just plus 36 points. So that's kind of okay, but you're not using this for the stats on it.
Next up we have the Scourge. The major stat is healing power. The minor stat will be condition damage. And the 6th bonus, gain a barrier when struck below the 50% health threshold at a 7-second cooldown.
This will be 75 second. You said 7.
Oh, sorry.
I just did a whoa moment there because that would have been crazy. This is something that, like, the way this is worded differently, with a 75-second cooldown and the element, the Weaver one only being like having no cooldown, this is going to be a big save your life kind of defensive proc. There will be people who are using this just for the 6-piece bonus. They might not do anything with Condi damage or anything with healing power. There are going to be people who are running this.
I don't think it'll be taken in raids and stuff, but
no, because if you drop that low, there's something wrong.
Yeah, and like the healing power.
Well, I just think that there's, I mean, Scourge is going to be like a Condi spec, and I just don't think, like, I know a lot of people say like, oh, they might be healers, they might be an off healer, maybe, but if you're gonna do that, then you need to pour more into, like, you can't have these halfsies. Oh, I'm gonna be a little bit Healy, I'm gonna be a little bit Condi. No, you either need to be Condi or Healy and not mix them. In this case, anyway. So. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what kind of play this will see. It's interesting, you know, but I don't know. I would be interested to see what people end up testing with this. Maybe there's an armor set that goes with it, and I could be totally wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. Next up, we got the Soul Beast. The major stat will be condition damage. The minor stat will be power, and the 6th bonus, an active pet will gain condition damage equal to 7% of your power. A non-active pet gain toughness equal to 7% of your condition damage. That just feels all over the place.
That's weird. Like, it's the only people who can really readily use this are Rangers and I think Necros. Do minions count as pets?
I don't know. It's like up in the air. Like, a lot of people I saw arguing about this on the on the Reddit post. Like, I don't know if it does or like it's. I saw people back and forth on it a lot. I would say it would, but
I don't actually know.
When
And yeah, this is a world versus world PvP thing for sure. Like you don't really need toughness, open world I guess, but you don't really need toughness anywhere else for content. Like fractals it would be okay I suppose, but you don't really need it.
Mithrin is saying that it's on a case by case basis for minions counting as pets. Ugh.
that's not confusing or anything.
Yeah, really. This is going to be weird. Like, I'm not entirely certain where they're going with this. So clearly they want you to be tankier when you're like, I'm going to assume that for one thing that Engie brought up is I'm going to assume that this means that when you are in beast mode, you technically do not have an active pet. Because if this is the soul beast rune, you are going to be dropping back and forth between active pet and inactive pet. So
That would be
I'm
my
going to
guess as
assume
well.
that was the intent.
If not, that's even a bigger, huge oversight that they're not even like considering what the Soul Beast does. But I would assume and hope that that would be the case. But yeah, I couldn't even really see this going like being used unless for some reason a Necro could use it. Like a lot of these ones you could see on like another profession, but like yeah, this one seems very much like you're pretty much ranger or nothing on that one. Next up we have the Deadeye. The major stat is power and the minor stat is ferocity, and the 6th bonus is apply 2 stacks of might for 15 seconds when you use a cantrip. So I saw a lot of people liking this for their Ellies as well. So
Yeah, this is going to be amazing for elementalists.
yeah, it's because like Blue Jasmine is saying, and I think they were also saying earlier was, you know, when we were talking about the Ellie rune, you know, a lot of Ellies tend to use power over like Condi as you know as much. So yeah, this could definitely be useful for you know at least them two. Probably yeah, I don't think anybody else uses cantrips yet. But
No, that's it. Just dead eyes and elementalists.
Next up, we have the Hollowsmith. Major stat will be power, the minor stat will be vitality, and the 6th bonus, gain a laser disc when struck below the 75% health threshold at a 45 second cooldown.
For those who are wondering, laser disc is the Beyblade attack that Hollowsmiths have on their tool belt. So every 45 seconds, if you're below 75% health, you get to be a Beyblade. I can see this being run in PvP because it's a lot of cleave damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the vitality would be quite nice for survivability, so definitely see that being useful. Next up, we have the Spellbreaker. The major stat will be power, the minor stat will be precision, and the 6th bonus, deal 7% more damage to foes with no boons.
This is going to be really good for PvE. Like, how often a lot of stuff not having boons. I mean, you're basically just going to have a nigh constant 7% damage bonus. That's not comparative to your health or anything. So
I was trying to think, like, if, like, during the demo, if things were applying boons. Because, I mean, a lot of monsters in HOT, they'll have, like, an initial, like, stack of, like, might on them or something. But, you know, if you strip it from them, that'll probably, you know, quickly. Which, if you're running Spellbreaker, that's the, you know, perfect one to do it with. But, you know, yeah, I'm curious to see how much the monsters will try to upkeep boons on them. But probably the next one has probably been what I think has been a pretty big hot button topic. Firebrand. Major stat was condition damage. The minor stat was boon duration that reaches to a 15% total. And the 6th bonus, plus 20% quickness duration when you use an elite skill, burn nearby foes at a 45 second cooldown.
The burn is meh, depending on how many stacks of burning it puts out. But the 20, I think that's the first time we've ever had a targeted boon duration increase on quickness. other than just general boon duration increases.
Yeah, and chat's also bringing up kind of like what you were saying with the condition duration. We have boon duration. But yeah, that I've seen a lot. Like the condition damage is a little bit off, but I've seen a lot of people start to kind of consider it for chronomancers. But like I said, the condition damage is usually they're not condi based, but they might want to try for that quickness. Next up, we have the Renegade. Major stat will be condition damage, the minor stat will be ferocity, and the 6th bonus, heal when you successfully evade an attack at a 20-second cooldown. So, I mean,
wait,
I was like, how much difference is this the same one as the Mirage?
Yeah, no, that's miscopied into the show notes. The one on the Reddit post says plus 7% condition damage.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a 7% condi damage modifier, which is super boring compared to everything else.
I was gonna say, that sounds very familiar. All right.
Yeah.
And last up, a couple bonus ones. Rebirth Rune. The major stat will be healing power. The minor stat will be concentration. Once again, now we have concentration, so who knows. The 6th bonus, ignore the next lethal blow and gain a barrier, and that's at a 90-second cooldown. So
depends on the values. I mean, it's kind of cool to have the extra life kind of stuff, but
yeah. Yeah, it definitely will be interesting. I could see that almost being as like if someone's like going full healer for like a raid or something, like a lethal blow, like that might help them a little bit. But once again, it depends on the values and what profession you're going with, because sometimes healing power doesn't really,
do anything.
Yeah. And oh, good.
No, I was just gonna say, and then we get to the thing that's going to make me angry.
Yeah, they also added a sigil of severance. Upon interrupting an enemy, gain up to 250 precision and ferocity for 4 seconds, depending on level, and that cooldown is supposedly 1 second.
I don't need this to be in PvP. I don't want this to be in PvP.
Hope not.
And if this is in PvP, I'm going to be.
It's going to be funny and OP.
Yeah, because I already deal with thieves just be like headshot, 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 and it's annoying as all hell. Yes, DDoS, exactly.
So it is important to still know, these are all subject to change before launch, but we're close to launch. Yes. But yeah, that's pretty intense.
Well, and we don't know that it will be in PvP. It's like we don't know the full context for these things. They might change numbers before launch as well. So
yeah, But we shall see. We only have less than a week left to see all this stuff in game. Oh, so excited! So excited that I might want to start throwing money at the screen. I know that one was bad. The rest were great though. So let's take a look at the gem store. So thank you always to Dolphy.net. Check out Dolphy.net so you can spend your gems more wisely. So the only new thing we got this week was Grent's Regalia outfit, and remember, it is an outfit, so it can hide the helmet, and it's basically all or nothing. But you can get it for 700 gems, and a lot of people at first were confused because they were like, didn't we already get this? We have gotten a Grenth hood that's an armor piece, but it's just the helmet for the helmet, and it's basically the one you're seeing there. Just I think this one has like an embroidered rim around it, whereas the one that you got as an armor piece just was an all same color hood. But besides that, I think it's pretty much the same. So, your guys' thoughts on the outfit? Are you picking one up? Would you suggest it? Or?
I mean, I won't be picking it up, but it's cool looking. I like that they're touching on all the different gods. People seem to like the different god outfits and the avatar outfits, whatever you want to call them. I still wish it was armor. Wish it was separated, or even like a Even if they could do like a separated outfit, then these would become more appealing to me. But
Yeah.
it's a nice outfit.
Though, can I just say the person that does the write up for Evan Nashblade on the blog post, I absolutely love it. Like, throw them in, like, let them chime in for like writing the story as well. Like, you know, when they put this out there, basically he says, I'm taking a little investment risk since it turns out that humans don't know their gods as well as they thought they did. I figure there's a 50% chance another one will start causing trouble. And that means every local fanatic will want merchandise. I'm not putting all my money on Grenth, but I think it's a solid prediction. After all, there's one thing you can always count on to follow war. And I was like, oh, that's so good. Like, I loved it. So I just needed to share that because when I read that, I'm like, man, if that's actually a thing. But
yeah, whoever they do get to write for Evan Nashblade on the forums actually does a really good job, and I appreciate it.
I think it's Anatoly. I think.
Oh, cool. Grant's going to put Joko in his place.
There is one thing on the outfit I will say. Some people may have noticed around the belt area. It's a little suggestive. Just saying.
Let's not talk about that because now I can't unsee it, and I want to forget about it.
Though one thing I did suggest when I saw Dolphy's dye job, just showing the different dye channels, like the kind of blue, like kind of skeletal rib cage thing and everything else, you could probably make a pretty cool, like, if you remove the helmet and kind of go with like male human with the long straight white hair, kind of like the default you get for when you make a human necro, you could probably make a good like D2 necro or like a Diablo necro type thing. With I felt, but if you're trying to cosplay that as a Diablo necro, but yeah, definitely pick that up for 700 gems if you are interested in it. A lot of returning items. They are trying to get every little bit of those gems before the expansion. So a lot of the ones that we talked about last week, like the Bloody Prince outfit, Gwen's attire, Mad Scientist outfit, are all still there. We also have the Aviator cap at 200 gems, the Aviator sunglasses 150 gems, the Lawless boots, gloves, helmet, and shoulder skins, each separately, are 300 gems apiece. The Fizzy Cat hat is 200 gems. The wide rim glasses are 150. Also, hurry up because leaving soon are the Macaw wings glider combo for 700 gems, the Mersat backpack glider combo for 700 gems, and the Spectral glider for 500 gems. Also, the classical glider for 400 gems, the exalted glider for 400 gems, the glider Tron for 500 gems, and also Rox's package and Timy's package. Rox's package at 1600 gems and Timy's package at 2000 gems are leaving in 3 days. So, would you recommend any of those things that are returning to maybe grab up?
No Glint's gaze. I'm not buying anything.
Well, I know a lot of people love the Aviator sunglasses, so
I already have them though.
yeah, I mean, if you haven't picked them up yet, but what is some? Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to be a Mersat, go with the backpack glider combo. The Spectral glider was pretty cool looking, I'd have to say. I didn't get it personally, but it was definitely something that was intriguing. Yeah, like chat saying, you know, waiting for a PoF. Like, yeah, I'm trying to do that too, because while I thought the Grenth outfit was cool, I'm like, I don't need it. You don't need it. Wait, sit on your, you know, mound of gems and just. But yeah, and chat's also saying they like the Spectral glider. If you like little robots talking to you, there's Glidertron. Not my cup of tea, but to each their own. But any final thoughts on the gem store?
It's kind of lackluster, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of the calm before the storm. I think like we're gonna probably get so many new things coming out next week, hopefully. So this week with Community Corner, thanks to Kate who watches the show. You probably talked to her if you're on our Discord. She let us know about this Reddit user Ifrix on the Wooden Potatoes subreddit. Was showing off if you're not familiar with it, there's something called Reshade, which will allow you to make your computer look like your graphics look a little bit nicer, far more than the options of the game itself. Can someone continue? I gotta take this call real quick.
Okay. So one of our community members, Kate, she seems to have found a green screen setting for Reshade that I guess you can help pull out a background, and then if you wanted to take screenshots and edit stuff out, you'd be able to easily Photoshop stuff in for your character, which honestly, crazy stuff with Reshade like this I've always really enjoyed. There's on the Guild Wars 2 subforum on MMO Champion, there is the longest running thread in the Guild Wars 2 subforum is the screenshots of your character, and some of the people in there that do Reshade touch-ups have some of the craziest presets, and it's really impressive what people can do with it.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know what you said about it, but yeah, it basically changed. I think the thing about it is it increases the fog of it, so it kind of creates a green screen, which, if you're, you can do something as simple as maybe like a lower third or something, like if you're a streamer or something like this. I kind of did a quick one on my personal, like on my little box here as like an example, but let me see real quick. It's like, oh hey, like if I drop our box, I use some of their images, but like, look, it's the forest, so like Snowden and stuff like that. So you might want to pick different locations, but you can kind of frame it up like that. Or they also have the ruins that they showed off, like, so you can do kind of things like that. Like with those ruins, it could kind of cover your chat, which I know a lot of streamers like to do. So you could do stuff like that. But yeah, definitely a lot of cool possibilities. But
you got some chickens and moas or llamas in there too.
It was the sun and the Shiver Peaks. Oh god, Teletubbies.
Oh Jesus.
But yeah, so yeah, I think it's very awesome. Like the close-up ones were for like you could do of your own character and character select. But yeah, definitely. We'll throw the link in chat to the forum post. But remember, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to add this kind of stuff, definitely check the links in the description. But yeah, also, I don't know if it's still going on. I know it was going on before we went live, but Gamers Giving Back, who usually do Pink Day in LA, are actually today, if you're watching this live, doing the Quag and Waddle to basically raise awareness for the Pink Day in LA, which will be October 21st. But also you can still donate to the Canadian Cancer Society during this event as well. They're doing like all kinds of events and stuff like that. I think their NA one is on twitch.tv/GW_EN, which will throw that in there. And I think this is the one they also do for Pink Day in LA, so we'll link it in the YouTube description in case you want to bookmark it for Pink Day in LA. It's a great cause. But any thoughts on the Quag and Waddle?
You're still muted, Inks. Okay.
But yeah, okay, chat saying it ended about 40 minutes ago. Okay, yeah. Yeah, the official one will be the 21st. Yeah, and I've always liked this, like even, ArenaNet kind of supports as well, because I remember when it was still in Guild Wars, when they still just, it was just Guild Wars 1 we had. So many people, because you had to mix the dyes that way, so many people were trying to find variations of pink and wasn't perfect, so they actually added a vendor that you could, I think, buy them for free or like 100 gold, which was a lot cheaper in Guild Wars 1. You could buy vials of pink dye, so it was definitely an awesome nod to it. And yeah, like Blue Jasmine is saying, it's a great cause. ArenaNet, it's something that I think is a great example of Guild Wars 2 community. So, oh, okay, chat saying it was 50 silver. Wait, they didn't have silver in Guild Wars 2 or Guild Wars 1. It was gold and platinum, and it wasn't 50 platinum. So maybe it was 50 gold, but to buy the pink dye back then in Guild Wars 1. Okay. Yeah, I was confused there for a second. But yeah, that is... chat's saying silver. They didn't have silver in Guild. Anyway, we can talk about that in the after show. But yeah, definitely check out that stuff. And this time next week, we'll all be doing the show, itching to play the game while you guys are playing and just listening to us. I know what you guys are gonna do. Don't lie to me. But yeah, Jim, where can they find you?
I can be found on Twitter at MalthanusMMO. You can also find me here on twitch.tv/TalkingSkrit every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a 0 to Hero PvP night. This will be the last night upcoming here on Wednesday before everything gets thrown all out of whack with the new Elite specs. So come on out and join the fun while it's still relatively sane.
Awesome. And Dings, where can they find you?
You guys can find me Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at MMO Inks. And a couple of videos on the channel this week. We got a bunch of videos going on next week. And, of course, we'll be streaming Tuesday, Thursday, and, of course, Friday for the actual launch. It's going to be a busy week and an exciting one at that. So make sure you guys catch all that content.
Awesome. And you can find me at simply_day on Twitch and Twitter. And, yeah, Friday evening Eastern Time, I'll probably be trying to go through the story and basically the game in general. Don't know how much story we'll get through, but I'll be using my brainwave device so you can see, hopefully, my brain light up on like when Abaddon returns, hopefully. But if you're popping at the very end, we do put this up on our YouTube. Just search Talking Skritt. It's usually the first one that pops up. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you wanted to catch the live show, maybe, rants before show, after show, we go live every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And this week, I'd like to thank for the hosts, Sundora, T-Love_, Serene Virus. Oh boy, it's moving on me now. Moonkiller NV. Oh boy, if I miss anybody, I do apologize. JD_Shadow. That Chevron. Inky Sticks. Jaibu Cool. Bjorn Rocker. And Asset Gebnut. I know I'm messing up your name. I apologize again. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming up. And as always, we will see you in the game. Good night, everybody.